Oh, welcome to Karihwakeron niyon Jots. I go by the English alias of Tim Thompson. I'm proud to work with FNTI. I want to take a moment to acknowledge all the board members, staff, and students who were able to make it here today. These are the people who are affected by the decisions that you make and the recommendations that you take forward. Some of them, some of the hundreds that are affected. What we're really affected by right now is federal-provincial bickering over who is responsible for Indigenous institutes. So as I stand here before you, or sit here before you, our fate is uncertain because we're not hearing from either government about what they're going to decide. This is a true test for the Government of Ontario and for all legislators. Do you believe in building positive relationships with Indigenous communities? Do you believe in the value of Indigenous higher education? Do you respect the need for Indigenous institutions controlled by Indigenous peoples? We've had a 23-year history of success, and yet we face day-to-day uncertainty. I want to point out an example. In the last session of Parliament, the Federal Parliament, a private member's bill was adopted about something called Jordan's Principle. Jordan was a young Anishinaabe boy with severe medical issues who passed away in hospital while federal and provincial governments argued over who should pay the costs of his treatment at home. This went on for years. He passed away before he could ever go home again. All members supported this principle, which says that where the government of first contact should assume primary economic responsibility for a child's health care. I'm urging you to take that into account and to take a recommendation forward into the legislature that says you will adopt that principle on all matters dealing with Indigenous peoples. Our students should not be put at risk. We've put recommendations in our kit, and I'd like to read them for you. On an interim basis, we're recommending that the cap on the allocation for Indigenous institutes under the Aboriginal Post-Secondary Education and Training Strategy be removed. The existing formula without the cap was agreed to between the Ministry and the 8 Indigenous institutes in Ontario, and it serves as an acceptable interim measure while we do further work. That leads us to recommendation 2. The further work we think we need to do is that Ontario work with FNTI and other like-minded Indigenous institutions to implement a roadmap for the recognition of Indigenous institutes as per the recommendation of the evaluation of the Aboriginal Post-Secondary Education and Training Strategy. It's one of the only recommendations that has not been followed up on about that strategy in the past year. It's recommended that the Government of Ontario initiate immediate discussions with the federal government to bring clarity and certainty to the matter of jurisdiction with respect to Indigenous post-secondary institutions. And finally, it's recommended that Ontario demonstrate that it appreciates the true diversity of Indigenous post-secondary institutes in the provincial post-secondary education system. I hope we've provided some contribution to your deliberations. If you have any questions, we're free to try to answer them. Oh,